Well, suppose that a CEO has just arrived in Japan and they have to familiarize themselves with the culture, how business is done here, and of course, how to prepare their team to be as successful as they possibly can in business in Japan and globally. What advice would you have for them?
Okay. The analogy, or maybe analogy, metaphor, I would have is when you're new to Japan, it's like you've landed and now you're swimming in this big lake, quite warm, not cold water, it's warm, swimming around. Unfortunately, the lake is covered in a very heavy fog, and you can hear sounds, and you can sort of make out indiscriminate things in the distance there, but you can't really see it clearly. And so you're swimming around in this fog, and then after a couple of years, the fog starts to lift a little bit. Oh, that's an island. Oh, that's a shore over there. And when things actually clear, your company then transfers you to your next post or your next country. So how do you make that whole thing faster?
Yeah.
Well, I think working very closely with your HR organizational development people is very key. And don't just trust the system as it exists to deliver to what you want. You come in, you observe very carefully where you are today, think about what's missing, about where you want to be, and try and find training, hopefully us, to come in and fix that. Because even if you've got centrally designated training from headquarters, that's a global system, often it has variable success in Japan. Often it's delivered in English. Often it's delivered from the training hub for APAC, which is usually Singapore or Hong Kong. Often the Singapore or Hong Kong team are very fast Chinese speakers of English with an accent. They come here to Japan, a country not renowned for its English skills. So you've got Japanese will be in those classes. They will get through the morning, they get to lunch. After lunch, they're going to get maybe 10%, 20%.
They're very tired.
They're tired, they're done.
Yeah.
Morning killed them. Their concentration shot, they just can't handle it. And you can tell, and I know this, I've been in these organizations where I've seen this, you can tell that as an employee of these multinationals, you can tell the Chinese trainers, hey, listen, you've got to slow down. Or you can tell the Western trainers, drop all the sporting analogies and idioms, right?
Yeah.
Drop all idioms. Speak more slowly. They take notice for about the first second. They can't break the habit, or then you've got interpretation involved. And then the time gets lost because they can't control the time anymore because it's geared up for something in English. They are really not skilled people for a Japanese environment. And even if you've got Japanese localization and you're delivering it in Japanese, how good are those Japanese trainers? They're okay, here's this trainer manual. We're going to download the trainer manual content. Nothing about comfort zone expansion, nothing about behavior change. And they're not very good trainers either. And then the central training has to be a pillar that can be moved all around the world. So you get the lowest common denominator of need globally. And as we know, every location will have certain things that are specific to that location, which central headquarters will never cover in a million years because they're not a training company. And they will not spend the money developing training for just Japan, for those specific things which are outliers. But those outliers are often very critical for the Japanese entity, but there's no cure for that. So what do? You just keep going and you're not really getting the quality. So as the head of the business, look at that, look very carefully at it. If you've got central training, how is it organized? What is the quality of the people who are actually delivering this? What languages are being... I was at a networking function recently. I met a lady, she's a president of her company. She told me, we had centralized training for sales. I go, that's great. What language is it? English.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be kidding me.
And the sales team are mostly Japanese.
And they're selling in Japanese to Japanese buyers. You've got to be kidding me. How can you train Japanese team members to sell in Japanese to a Japanese buyer by training them in English? How can the coach them? Sales is what you say and how you say it. How can you coach them on how they're saying it? You can't. So that's just a total joke. But you'd be surprised. There are so many companies like that who really just don't get it. If you're a newly arrived CEO here, get it. Work out, hey, that's not going to fly. We need to get this training in Japanese. We need to not have the Japanese get 60% in the morning and 10% in the afternoon. We need 100% all day long. We need to have behavioural change. We need to have high quality because we've got performance outcomes. We've got targets we need to reach. I've only got limited time here. I need to get the best for my people, and I've got to. And if you need help to work out what that is, then find help. And again, I'm plugging my own company here, but that's why we're here. We're here. We can help the CEOs to solve those problems because we've seen this a million times before. This is not new to us.
But crafting training that allows the person being trained to have 100% concentration throughout the day, that's an art that lies on the side of the trainer and crafting the plan, right? Because, I mean, for any of us, an all-day activity is going to drain us over time, right? So you have to have a plan in how you train and an approach that allows you to keep everyone engaged and fresh through the day, right? And that probably typically doesn't happen with internal training in a company.
Monotone delivery, energy-less delivery, one pattern, one way delivery. That's the most common. What does our training look like? Highly interactive. The trainers, they've got to get the team who walk in the door at probably 20 to 30% energy levels up to 100%. That means the trainers are operating at 140, 150% energy levels. I can tell you, when I'm training, or where any of us are training in Dale Carnegie, we never take our jackets off. You know why? We're soaked underneath. Shirts are soaked. We don't wear coloured shirts, white shirts, because we're operating 140, 150 energy, because we get the energy levels up to 100. And we've got this change of pace, self-work, think and write, small group activity, reporting, big group activity, exercises, role play, looking at some information. It's that constant variety that keeps people engaged. And it's so different. People say to us, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. And that's right, they haven't. Because the typical Japanese training is the sensei, the instructor comes in, blah, 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 all day, one way, maybe a little bit of group work, no passion, nothing. It's just a killer. And that's why when you say to Japanese staff, oh, we're going to send you to training, they don't see that as a step up. They see that as some negative reflection on their current state of their ability and capability and punishment, because it's going to be boring. So they're not enthusiastic. And, we get this. We get people, you've seen it. They lean back in the chair, got the arms folded. Why am I here? This is a waste of time. I've got better things to do than this. I can't see any point to this. They're negative when they come in the room. This happens all the time with Japanese companies and sometimes Goshike companies too, multinational companies too. But we're experienced. We've been here for 54 years. Not the first time, to be in our rodeo. We know how to deal with that. We turn that attitude around. We turn around straight away because we know we can't have a whole bunch of hostages or saboteurs in the class. We've got to get people activated. So there are techniques for that. But coming back to your CEO example, look very carefully at what you've got, what you need, and then go and find the resource. Even if it's not us, find the resource that's going to deliver you the outcomes that you want, because what your current system is delivering may not do that. Because often, when I find Japanese companies using training, and they're using a company I've never even heard of for leadership training, I say, well, who are these people? Oh, they're very small team. Why using it? Well, the guy knew, the guy from that company. Typical Japan, right? It's not logical, it's emotional, it's relationships. It's, I know so-and-so, so we'll bring them in. Are they the best in class? Have they got their own central university producing, IP, national intellectual property? Have they got activities in 100 countries around the world? Are they teaching them 30 languages? Have they been going for 100 plus years? Have they been going for 50 plus years in Japan like we have? No, but it doesn't matter because they know so-and-so, therefore they're in here. So they're not getting the optimum level of expertise they could be getting. It's relationship. And that's why for us it's often hard to break in because those relationships are there, even though what we give them would be so far superior. So yes, it's hard, but keep your eyes open and look around and search out best in class. No matter what it is, look for best in class.
One last thing that I'm hearing there, taking away from this, is that as a CEO coming to Japan, keep in mind that those small cultural specific elements of training that may seem unimportant may be some of the most important elements, right?
Absolutely, and I think we've got 40 Japanese trainers. We teach in English as well, so it's interesting, we have native speaker trainers for whichever languages. We found, even though our non-native speaker trainers can speak very fluent Japanese as foreigners, 10% of the people who give us feedback as the participants will complain. Oh, they made a mispronunciation of a word, or they had a grammatical incorrect sentence, or I couldn't understand what they were saying. They're the ones who will tell you. So there's probably a larger group who won't tell you, but will think that. Because Japanese are very picky as a consumer of services. They want perfection. So we don't mix it up unless we've got some need for a dual language training. So they want it in both languages. So Japanese training, Japanese native speakers. English training, English native speakers is the way we go to get around those sorts of problems. So there are those sort of cultural things. And so naturally the Japanese trainers, even though they're teaching a curriculum that's based out of the Dale County University in America, it's localized when we bring it here. We change the language, but 99% of it is exactly the same content, but it's delivered in a culturally sensitive way with the right language in Japan, so we get around those sorts of problems. Although sometimes people think, oh, it's American. Well, look, we've been here for 54 years. Trust me, we've localized this already. It's not a problem. But people don't know that necessarily, so we've got to make sure they do that.
Yeah.